20 seconds.
Wow, I'm gonna take 19 of those, Congressman. Probably in munitions. I don't know how much we'd buy for $1, but I'd want to make sure that the joint force is properly armed at scale at the tactical edge, and the youngsters that volunteer to serve have what they need.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Chairman. I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Joyce.
There we go. Thank you, Chairman. Secretary, everybody, I appreciate we had to go out to other, you wouldn't believe this, but there are other hearings taking place. So I went over to bug Secretary Turner and now came back, so it's your turn. Secretary Hagel, your April 30th memo on Army transportation and acquisition reform directs the Army to expand prepositioned stocks of equipment to the Indo-Pacific. I expect we would need to enhance our industrial base capacity to support this effort. Can you discuss the importance of increasing prepositioned stocks in the Indo-Pacific and how this affects the Army's resources for FY26?
It's a great question because it marries up two things that need to be linked and synced and often aren't, right? The capabilities that we have in the priority theater and where we preposition those capabilities. So my job exists on multiple axes of that. One is working with allies and partners to make sure we have places to preposition them, many of which we can't talk about here today, but in the event of a contingency, we can't be relying on a supply chain that reaches all the way back to the States or even to Hawaii or even to Guam. You need to recognize the prepositioning of stocks. But then you have to have those stocks, and they have to be the relevant ones for the systems that you're deploying, and you need a defense industrial base to deliver on that, which is why we've made historic investments in munitions, focusing on priority munitions that would be applied in our priority theater, with a recognition that every munition we spend somewhere else, and I say that as someone who, very proudly, we conducted a very successful freedom of navigation campaign against the Houthis to ensure that our ships don't, and by the way, 2 of our ships transited the BAM successfully, and the ceasefire held very recently. So doesn't mean you don't expend munitions, you judiciously expend them with an understanding that you have to safeguard others for future fights and prepositioning, and then invest in your industrial base. And I think that's why you see a budget with a 13% increase. 13% increase in a defense budget is significant and allows us to both invest in the president's priorities and fast-track munitions that we're going to need.
For a guy chairing a committee that has to cut his by 57%, I can tell you getting a plus 13 is a lucky day. Chairman Kane, our forces face growing challenges sustaining operations across contested environments, particularly in the Indo-Pacific. China is investing in capabilities designed to disrupt supply lines, access to forward operating bases, and target critical logistic nodes. What steps are you taking to strengthen contested logistics capabilities, and what investments can Congress make to ensure that you have operational resilience?
Well, Congressman, thanks for the question. You know, history tells us that the professionals talk about logistics, and that's what was the big differentiator between us and our adversaries in World War II, is really the logistics power. You know, our teammates within the Joint Force are looking carefully at this right now, and as we look at the adversaries' threat arrays that they have and our ability to defeat them and move the combat capacity that we need to through those difficult places is a key part of that. I don't have a specific number for you, but what I'll commit is, as we think through what contested logistics looks like, as we think through what forward supply points on the first and second island chain might look like, we'll stay close with the committee to make sure that we're communicating early, often, and always about what our needs are.
I certainly appreciate that, and I throw out that having a small Air Force Reserve airport in Youngstown, Ohio area.
Some great C-130Js up there,
Thank you.
Congressman. Yeah.
Appreciate the help on our fire department for the new inventory we got. But the old stuff we had there, you had maybe 8 planes. You were cannibalizing 3 to feed the 5 because we didn't have parts and storage and those type of things. And I think that's has played out in other areas for us as well. And we need to not only make sure we have the manufacturing industrial base, but we also have the ability to have the parts and inventory on to keep all those things online, or we have to remove them from service.
Yes, sir. I know General Alvin and the team at the Air Force is looking hard at that too, to make sure that we've got the right stuff on the shelf, prior to that we need, not just in the C-130 community, but the other airframes within the Air Force, and frankly, the Joint Force. Parts are always going to be a driver, and I'm really encouraged by the innovation that's happening to look at things like additive manufacturing, where we get a hold of the specs from companies like Lockheed and others and can just 3D print right on the spot of the requirement.
Those have to be in any procurement you do from now on. That you
Yes,
also
sir,
get
I
access
think
to
so,
all this
sir. It's, you know, the force of the future will fix on the spot, so they'll need to be able to have the parts right there. And as we look at mission command and delegating authorities and responsibilities to our younger commanders and you know, complex command and control problems, part of that is going to be the ability to sustain our force out there at the edge.
Thank you very much, General.
Yes, sir.
I yield
Thank
back.
And thinking of logistics, it made me think at, what was it, General Marshall, who went out in the 30s and met with a young lieutenant colonel, and said, "It's the best logistics officer I've ever met." And that was General Eisenhower. 3 years later, he was a 4-star general. So wars, logistics are important. Mr. Anderholt, you're recognized.